Hi, Bill. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Socially distanced, of course.
Yeah, I don't know whether it is exactly.
Yeah, that's about right, isn't it? 6 feet.
It should be fine. We can check it.
Yeah,
Yes, it's fine. Great. I just want to know more about this project. So, but before that, can you just tell us briefly about the issue on homelessness and how serious it is, and particularly in Barking and Dagenham?
Okay.
And what's the truth about the situation?
Well, the latest government statistics we have, I think they're about 2 years old now. There's about 6,000 rough sleepers and homeless people in Barking. And the way that's worked out, it's not just people we take to be rough sleeping, like sleeping in hedges and on the parks and things. But it's people who are sofa surfing, people who don't have permanent accommodation. So, they may be sleeping in your sofa for 3 months and they're sleeping in my house for a few months, and just they don't have a fixed address. But if you think about it, the rough sleepers that you see in the parks and stuff, they're visible. They're the ones we see when we go out about our daily business. But a lot of the actual homelessness, it's hidden. We don't see the people who sleep on other people's sofas or perhaps sleep in abandoned buildings and all that kind of thing, because it's not the places we go. We don't see it.
Can you just tell us what makes you want to be a partner with Green Pasture? What drew you into this particular ministry in this particular time?
I think it's a passion that's been building for a while, and we stand on the scriptural truth, if you like, that God is love. And it's like when you used to go to the festivals and you bought the wristband things, and it said, what would Jesus do? And you look at these issues and think, well, what would he do? How would he respond? His command was to feed the poor, to go out to the poor, the marginalised, and feed them. I mean, if you think about it, in his day, he went out to the lepers, the people that society in that day ostracised, pushed to the margins, didn't want to know. And he went to them and he touched them and he healed them and he dealt with their issues. And I feel that's what God's calling us to do now, is to go to the homeless, the disadvantaged. Or if you think about it, if you young haven't got a fixed address, how do you have a bank account? Because the bank need a fixed address to deal with the logic and work of you having a bank account. But if you don't have a bank account and you have a job, you can't get paid. If you haven't got a bank account and you're on benefits, you can't receive benefits. So it's all that kind of stuff, and it's just crazy. It's, the source feeds 80 to 100 people a day now. Right, amazing. I mean, it's incredible the amount of stuff that pours into that place from all over the supermarkets, donations, whatever, and we're feeding. But that's the tip of the iceberg, and you think the next step is to take the extra step, which is what Jesus would have done. Okay, we're feeding you, that's great, but let's move on to the next stage. Let's give you a permanent abode, a permanent place you can live.
Then how can we, both as an individual and also as a church, be most helpful to our homeless brothers and sisters and respond to their needs?
I think we both know, don't we, that St Erk's is a powerful, prayerful community. Especially since the pandemic started, we've seen so much powerful prayer go on. On the WhatsApp and on the website and through the online services. There's so much answer to prayer and powerful prayer out there. So initially, I want to get St Erk's praying, because we've seen so many things happen through the power of prayer in the source and through the work we're doing now, that if this thing is not rooted in prayer, it's not going to happen. It won't work. But specifically, what do we want the church to pray for? We need the right house. We need it to be in the right location. We need it to be in the right. We need to get the right tenants, because very much with Green Pastures, it's not just about saying, I'm going to take you and put you into a house. Okay, that's fine. You've got a room to live in. It's about, how can we help you? How can we support you? Because don't forget, a lot of these folks aren't used to living in communities, so aren't used to living perhaps under the same roof with 3 or 4 different people. So how do you interact? It's difficult. So a lot of life skills need to be helped with and trained and worked on. And that's what we aim to do. It's supported living, not just a roof over your head, right, we're off, we'll do the next lot. It's supported living to really help them get grounded in society again and move on.
As an individual, how can each individual members can support this?
Well, in a nutshell, Green Pastures buy the house. And the cost of the mortgage, if you like, to pay for the house comes from the housing benefit of the tenants we put in. But we're going to need things like start-up costs, because you could say, okay, let's get a load of second-hand furniture and kit the house out with that. But Jesus wouldn't do that. He'd bless them. He'd say, okay, here's the best I can give. You know, here's a new bed, here's a new fridge, here's a new carpet, here's some new crockery in the kitchen, that kind of stuff. So we want to bless them by putting new stuff in from day one. Now we can recoup the costs of that through the benefits and the claims with Green Pastures. We can make that work. But we're going to need initial start-up costs because we're starting from a base of zero. So people can support. If they want to support financially, that's fantastic. Obviously, it's not for me to say you must do this or that. It's for you to talk to God and listen to Him and do whatever the Lord directs. So financial support would be good. Prayer support is essential. Obviously, if the church as a corporate body feels it wants to support financially, then again, that's fantastic. But that's for the church to discern, not for me to say, give me, because that's not what it's about. It's about giving the people hope and a future. That's what Jeremiah said, wasn't it? God said, I know the plans I've got for you. You come to me and pray, and if you come to me and pray, I'll listen. And it's about giving people who are hopeless, in hopeless situations, thinking, how do I get out of this? Hope and a future. And that all starts with a roof over your head, where you can actually close the door and think, yeah, this is mine. I could just be. And that's so important, and we take that for granted.
Bill, what's the cost of not taking action?
You think about it, there's 6,000 homeless or so in Barking. We're going to help 4 in the first house. I read a story by Heidi Baker a few months ago, and she goes out to orphans. She runs an orphanage in Mozambique, and they take orphan kids off the streets who've been abandoned by their parents, that kind of thing. And there are thousands and thousands in Mozambique. And somebody said to her, don't you get overwhelmed? You know, there's like thousands and thousands of kids out there, and you've got so many in your orphanage. How about all the rest? And she said, you know, if I just help one to get off the streets and get back to normality and get back to feeling loved and knowing Jesus' love for them, then I've done what God asked me to do. So that's the basis we're operating on. If we just help 4, it makes a massive, massive difference to those 4.
Okay, and just lastly, what's the simplest next step?
I guess, what's God saying to you? You know, God's put this call out. He's called us to lead it. He's called me and Anne and Amanda from this church to play a serious leadership role in this, and there are others as well. In a sense, there's about 6 or 7 people from St Oaks already involved in the source, and at least 3 or 4 will be involved in Green Pastures. So there is a missional calling out of this church, if you like. But I'm sure there's others out there. I know there's others out there that God's touching their hearts now, and He's calling them to respond. And my only question to you would be, how will you respond to what He's saying? It's not for me to ask, it's for you to think, hang on, God's nudging me here. I know this is for me, and then see where the Lord leads you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
And if any one of you really are really interested in this ministry, wants to be part of, or wants to find out more, please speak to me or Bill. I think he's the best person to ask, of course. Okay, but thank you.
So on a final note, the charity is Green Pastures. That's the main Christian charity that we're partnering with. The charity, obviously, that we belong to is Barking Churches Unite, of which St Oaks is a part. But we're actually calling this project the Micah Supported Living project, because we feel that Micah just called people back to Jerusalem, back to the centre, and the centre was rebuilt and put back to how it was, restored to how it was in how God wanted it to be, you know. And you think, yeah, we're just calling these people back from the mess that they're in, from the issues that they've got themselves into, saying, no, just come back to where God wants you to be, with hope, with a future, with a settled sort of state, if you like, because from there you can build. Isaiah 58:7, it says, provide the poor wanderer with shelter and clothe the naked. And that's what Micah Supported Living is going to do.
I'm sure that this is God's new initiative for 2021, and this is something that very special in this particular time, and I really hope many people can join in. And also I want our church really can support it.
Well, I guess it's, if you're sitting there thinking, I can't do that, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I can't do that, well, join the club, because that's how I feel. But I know that through him all things are possible, and if I submit to him what he wants to do through me, then it'll work. Because if God's for us, who can be against us? Amen.
Amen. Thank you.